Okay guys, I hope the other tutorials have been helpful for you. So moving on with today, we want to be looking at being able to save your score and carrying it on to the next level, save lives, and then being able to actually load a save game. So imagine you had 100 levels. We wanted to save whatever level you are currently on. So when you exit the game, you can come back to it later on, and then your lives, your score, etc. will still be there. Because at the minute, when you're playing the game, when you are creating your score, it's not carrying on to the next level. So if I just show you this here, I've made a little function where if I press the right mouse button, it will add points to my score. And I don't have actually an extra level, so let me just create this level. So I'll duplicate, got level 2. My build settings, just add level 2 into the build settings. Now hit play. I'll give myself 100 points. If we go to the next level, I no longer have any points. So, in order for us to set this point system up, we need to use something called player prefs. Now what player prefs does is it creates a file and it saves it inside your BIOS, not your BIOS, sorry, your registry on a Windows machine. So you can go into a registry and you can actually see these files being saved. All it does is it takes a value, so an integer, a string or a float, and it stores it in a file which is then saved in the registry. There is another method to do it, and it's creating a custom class C# script, and you can set all these variables up in the C# script and then convert it to a text file, which then gets converted to binary when it's saved, and when it's loaded it gets the binary file converted back to a text file, converted back to C# and stores it in the relative variables. Second way is a lot harder and a bit more complex for you guys, and it's not really needed for the level of game we're making. Player prefs is great for small scale games, so all we need to store is our lives, our levels and our score. And for the size of game you're making, player prefs is perfect. So that's what we're going to stick with for today. Downside to player prefs, which I can show you later on, is that you can go into the registry and you can actually manipulate the values, so you can change how many lives you've got or how much score you've got, or you can even unlock levels. So that's its downside. However, other than that, it's a nice simple way to set up saving scores, and we could, in our next tutorial we'll actually make a high score out the score, so it's great for that. So moving forward, let's set it up. Let's firstly click on our player. Now my score is being saved in the pickup script, so open the script to whichever you are saving your score. Okay, so now that the pickup script is open, we can start editing. So firstly we need to come down to wherever we're adding a score. So I've got two methods here. I am saying if I click the right mouse button, it will add 10 points on the same down here. If I actually collide with an object, it will add 10 points on. So I'm going to set it in both. This is for my testing, this is just for my demonstration purposes for you. You won't have this. But however, wherever you are adding points, this is where you need to put in the next step. So I'm going to say player prefs dot set integer score, and we'll get player score. What I'm doing is setting the int value, saving it in the key of score, so what's happening here is we have a player score, and we're grabbing that value and we're saving it into the key of score. Now the key is the name of your player prefs, and it's a string value. So just at the top here we will say private string score, and it's equal to player score. Now if we go to our reg edit, which is where of course our values are saved. We've got player score, player score. So let me just delete these two values so we start fresh. And then we've now set the value. So let's just set this value again down here for me. Again, set this value wherever you add points to your score system. So again, we're getting the player score, storing it in the key score. Now we need to add a new function. Let's call this void start. So it's a start function, and we're just saying player score is equal to player prefs dot get int score player score. So what's happening here is the player score value here is being set to the player prefs, and then we're loading the score from the key score and save it in the player score. Now you hit play. We'll give ourselves some points, and then our points are carried over. So great, that works. Let me just set this to level 2 so it works for me. I just want to set this so it's on an infinite loop. So we've got a score of 100. Go. We've got a score of 100. Okay. Now the problem is every time we die, just a game over. We go click on new game. Our score is still there, so we need to be able to delete that score. So what we do is on level 1, so on the first scene, it has to be your first level, okay? If you do it on any other level, it's not going to work. So you only need the one instance on the first scene. And the reason for that is because when the game loads its first level, it needs to delete all the player prefs. Okay, so we'll make a new game object. We'll call this prefs. We go to scripts, create a new script. Call it script prefs. Copy this over onto here. Open it up. Go to these functions, and then we simply make an awake function. So void awake. In the awake function, we just say player prefs delete all. So when the game awakes, it's going to delete all the player prefs, which is what we wanted to do. So now when we go back to the menu scene, when we hit play, menu game, should now delete our score, which has to. So we'll just carry on to the next level, we kill ourselves. Hit the game. Our score is no longer there because it's actually deleted the score for us, which is great, which is what we want. So now we need to carry our lives over, because I don't know if you noticed, but when we hit play, and we kill ourselves, we head to the next level, our lives aren't carrying over. So that's what we need to set. So my player handles his lives in the life manager function, but you will set this in whatever script that handles your lives. Obviously mine's handling it here. So the way I will fix this is, firstly I need to get rid of starting lives, because I'm going to set this up in its own little script somewhere else. So get rid of starting lives, no longer need that. And then we need to make a reference to the player prefs key, so private string, call this one lives, this is player lives, So this is now going to make a new player prefs, and it's going to call this player prefs player lives. Live counter was at 30 equal to start lives. Now it's not. Now it's actually equal to player prefs lives. So instead of getting the lives integer, it's now getting it from the actual player prefs itself. So all you need to do, it's very simple, is when you want to give a life, you actually need to get rid of this now, and instead you need to set the integer. So player prefs settings lives player prefs get int lives -1. So we're going to actually set our lives here. So we're saying set lives, and then we're getting the key lives, so we need to set it in lives, but then from what we're actually getting the value from, we're actually going to get it from our integer, which is already stored in the key lives, and we're going to reduce it by -1. So that's getting the value and reducing it by -1, and it's saving it in this key here. Okay, and the same for take life. That's not actually taken, that's given. Take life is just the same but the opposite. Player prefs settings lives player prefs get int lives -1. So this is given, this is taken. Okay. Now, what will happen is you will get caught up in an endless loop of game over when you run out of lives. So in order to fix that, you want to actually tell the system to give you 2 lives once it's called the game over function. That's just in order to reset our player prefs. So we simply say player prefs settings, and then we're saying lives 2. And all we're doing there is we're giving it 2 lives back at the end once it's game over, and that's just to reset it, otherwise we get caught up in an endless game over loop. Now watch what happens when we hit play. We're caught up in this endless game over loop already, and that's because we haven't actually set the lives, because now we've got rid of our initial lives or our starting lives. It's getting it from the lives, so there's obviously no value saved in lives. So we need to go to prefs and give it a private string lives equals player lives. So this is getting that player prefs value, and then we need to make a new function. So void what would we call it again? We call it void set lives, because we're going to set our lives. And then set live, we simply say player prefs set int lives player prefs get int lives +2. And then what I want to do is I want to debug this just so I can see it on screen, just to make sure it is working. Setting lives plus lives set at plus player prefs get it lives. And all this debug is telling me is I'm setting the lives, then lives is set at, and then it's getting a value from player prefs. And then we need to call it. So set lives. So what's going to happen is on a void awake, it's going to delete all the player prefs. Then it will call this set lives. Now if we had to so now our live is there, ourselves. It's not updating on screen here. That's because we need to set it elsewhere. So if we head to our life manager, and it's our life counter here, so void update if life counter.ui got game which is a component text equals the heart sign plus, and it's getting the integer from the life counter. We actually need to change that to play prefs, not get int lives, and that's just so we get that play press value instead. Now when we hit play, it should now start updating our lives. That is because on your play controller, life count manager.life counter, so we don't want that. What we want to actually say is play prefs get int lives. So if the value in that lives player pref is less than is equal to 0, then it needs to give you game over. So we just need to call it up here, private string lives lives. Hit play again. So we die. Game over. Our lives have gone back to the 2 because obviously that's what we set the end. Hit new game. Our lives are still remain on 2. And it works. Great. So next we need to be able to save our game. So let's say we had 100 different levels. If we had 100 levels, we don't want to we could do it while we type what level we're on, but if we got 100 levels, we don't want to do that. We want the system to do it itself. So we can easily fix this. It's an easy fix. So the easy fix to this is just to call what actual scene you're on. So we could do that by going into our player controller, because obviously it's our player controller that's going to handle what level we're on. Because obviously the player is going to be in every single scene, that's why we can handle it. So, underneath your private string play lives, make a private scene scene, and this is reference to the current scene we are on. So this just finds out what scene we're on, and it saves it in the variable scene. And then we make a private string, and we call this scene name, and this is just a string which will contain the scene name, and then private string load level equals current level, and this is just our player press key stored. So this is just the reference to the player press key, and we're just storing it in the variable load level. And then what we need to actually do is create a new function down at the bottom. I'm going to call this function save game, so void save game, and in the save game function we just say scene equal to scene manager dot get active scene So what happens here is gets the current active scene and saves it in the variable scene, and then scene name is equal to mscene.name, and this is simply gets the name of the current scene and saves it as a string. So what it does, it gets the current scene name from the mscene and then saves it as a string inside the variable scene name. It just converts that scene name to a string. Then what you want to say, play prefs dot set string is load level. So we're setting it inside the key load level, and then we're getting the scene name and it's string from scene name string. Gets the string value from scene name and saves in the key load level. And we want to put a debug.log just so we can see what's happening. The level plus scene name has been saved, and that would just tell me that that scene name has been saved for whatever level we're on. Hit play. We're on, there you go. And it's not working because we haven't actually called this. So we call this in the awake function because we want it to save on awake on the actual level loading. So we just in the awake function we say save game. Now when we hit play, we should set whatever scene we're in. So there you go. The level 1 has been saved. The level 2 has been saved. The level 1 has been saved, and so on and so forth. And that just saves whatever level we're on each time. Now, in order for us to actually access this level, in our main menu, we need to update the main menu just to create a new button that will load up the actual the save. So main menu, we go to our canvas. At the minute we have 2 buttons, new game, exit game. So let's make a duplicate start button, move it down a little. Hit the little pin down, go on to text and change the text to load level or load game. And then in our actual button itself, I should rename this to load game. We have a menu button script to access, and that's saved on this menu button game object. So we open up this, and I've already put the string in. Let me just delete these so we can actually show you. We make a private string load level, and that is equal to, of course, the what did I say value was current level. So that's say this current level. And then I make a new function. I simply call this public void load level. And this is equal to scene manager dot load scene and then in the here we will say player prefs dot get string, because we're always going to get the string value from load level, and that is simply it. All we're doing here is we're loading the scene and we're getting the string value name from the player prefs load level. Nice, simple, this one. On our menu button, we go on load game, and then we main menu, and we just set it to low level. And we hit play, and we hit low level, and we now load the last level we were on. Obviously it's level 1, so let's go to level 2, end the game, start the game again. Let's hit play, and it's loaded level 2 for us, which is great. So let me just show you what I meant before, as in you can actually update and you can manipulate the player prefs. So let's go to reg edit in our registry. What you do is you navigate to H key, current user, and the software, find the Unity folder, so Unity editor, the company name you're working with, whatever project name is called. I'll call this college game. Inside here we've now got our player pref saved. We've got current level and player lives. If I just start a game and add a score on, we've got current level, player lives, player score. So that's our 3 player prefs. In player score, it's got a hexadecimal value of 64, which is a decimal value of 100. I can change this value to 500. Okay, now when we go back into Unity, and let's just load the game. It changed my score. So I've actually updated the score simply by changing the values in this registry editor. That's the downside to player prefs. It's that your players can manipulate the data. The way around that is using the other option, which is to convert it to binary, because obviously converting to binary is a lot harder to manipulate than it is with the hexadecimal values. In the registry, you can actually encrypt the you can actually encrypt the binary file too. But that's how you basically save the game in Unity. In our next tutorial, I'm going to do a high score, and all the high score will do with the UI, and just collecting the player prefs and just displaying it on the board. Okay, I hope that was helpful, useful for you guys, and I will give you another tutorial for tomorrow. Thank you.